Best of r/Tales from Tech Support episode 58. The characters in this tale of tomfoolery. Me, Turbo Jelly, IT support and admitted idiot. OWP, my old work phone, destroyer of hope. MPP, my personal phone, only here cause I like it. NWP, new work phone, new, better, not as annoying as its predecessor. The above is probably not needed for the story, but it helps set the stage. Now for the scenery. Since there I was given it and the 5 years since, OWP has been a source of frustration for me. From petty things like the back button being on the left instead of right, to more annoying like its inability to disable side buttons when in my pocket or how answering the phone caused it to hang up more often than answer. It was crap. So the day I couldn't get it to charge left me with glee. At first I was annoyed as was unable to sign into my weekly Skype meeting as I couldn't turn my phone on to get the verification text. So I plugged it into charge for a few hours. Came back to test it and it barely made the password screen before turning off. At the moment a spark of hope light inside of me. Maybe the pose was buggered. Maybe I could get a new phone. I left the phone to charge over lunch and came back to try again. Still no power. OWP was plugged in and no receiving a charge. Time to email my boss about it. He replied quickly that he would sort something out for me. I felt dubious but hopeful. At the end of the day I tried my phone one last time, no luck. So I started packing up and realized my stupidity. Have you spotted it yet? I didn't turn the power socket on. Cursing myself for such stupidity I sat down to email my boss this new development, just in time to receive confirmation of my new phone. All things considered, perhaps leaving my last email in the drafts folder may be a good idea. TL. Dr. Hate the game not the player. Thank you. Next. Our company supports other small businesses, and are generally their only IT department. Some however have that in-house person that is frontline tridge. So their company can try to save a few bucks by having their employee that knows computer stuff take care of easy stuff. From one such, unmanaged, company, we get an email from said employee asking us to check a computer. This computer is dedicated to a user that is remotely connecting to network via SSL VPN then RDP to computer. Only a couple users like this, so they didn't want to go RDS. The remote user says they have to call in every day to the on-site tridge employee, and on-site guy had to turn on the computer each day. I talk to the remote user and ask how they are signing out of the computer. They state that they click the start menu button and choose shut down. Mystery solved. Faith rolling on the floor laughing. Needless to say I'll propose to the company we set up the remote computers to not show the shutdown option. Maybe have a big shiny sign off icon. Thank you. Next. Tech-savvy business customer, not really on the computer side but a technical company. Boss wants to switch his old 5 spinning drives for SSDs and wants to do that himself. Fine by me. Contrary to most others I am happy to save my customers expensive technician time and support them with anything they can do themselves. As my main job is server side anyway I am not too eager to work on client SSD switch anyway. To do that he bought a simple ISObox copy station 2 bay that can copy 2, 5 and 5 drives without a computer, as long the destination drive is bigger or equal in size. So one weekend finally all parts are at the customer and he start his work. Suddenly I receive a mail. Customer, the hard drive does not fit the copy station. Me, thinking maybe there's a carrier mounted on that drive. I double check the station we ordered for him and yes it's a 5/2, 5 dual combo. Then a second mail follows before I can even answer the first. Customer, I unscrewed those screws but I cannot lift this plate. Me, lift a plate? What kind of carrier is that? Oh no he does not. Please number. Open the image he sent me. Thank you. Next. So, I was working for a large internet service provider, ISP, when one of the people on my floor gets a phone call from a woman who uses a different ISP claiming that the Wi-Fi was harming her dog. She claimed someone from her ISP went into her house while she was at work and changed something with the Wi-Fi. She was demanding someone from our office head down and check it out because she doesn't trust her ISP. As she isn't a customer she isn't entitled to free customer support from us. While I can't remember the exact words used it went something like this. Support Hello and thank you for calling company support. I am Name. How can I help you? User. Hello. Please send someone to my house to check the Wi-Fi. It's making my dog sick. She is now paralyzed. Support. Can you please answer a few questions to confirm your identity? There was a bit of confusion as none of the answers lined up with anything. Eventually this happened. User. Oh, I'm not a company customer, but I still have the internet. Support. I'm sorry ma'am, but due to not being a company customer we would have to charge for our services, and cannot guarantee that we can fix the issue as we do not have administrative access to the router. Additionally, it is highly unlikely the Wi-Fi is the reason your dog is paralyzed. Have you considered taking your dog to the vet? User. What do you mean? You sell the internet, don't you? You can fix it. Support. Yes, we sell internet. However, we are not the same provider as other company and do not run the same form of network, ADSL compared to wireless. We are not equipped to troubleshoot other company routers. User. But you sell internet. You can just come around with a sensor and tell us what the waves are doing. Please. Someone broke into my house and changed my internet. Support. Sorry, ma'am, but we are not equipped to perform such checks. Also, there is no evidence showing a link between dog paralysis and Wi-Fi. He'd done a search while she was talking. User. Some help you've been. That's it. I'm just going to turn off the internet. How do you like that? Hangs up. Not sure what was wrong with the dog. Hope it's alright. After the call our supervisor was alerted. A procedure with difficult phone calls. Supervisor was just as stumped as us. Got to give credit to the tech who dealt with that. While the woman wasn't overly aggressive, considering she felt her house had been broken into. It's not a phone call any of us want to handle. Thank you. Next. Hi everybody. This story is more or less hot off the press, and took some assistance from Reddit to help resolve. In any case, the title is the TL. Doctor of what ended up being the solution. No stupidity involved, just a problem that was essentially the last thing we could have expected to have happened. We have a network setup that includes a huge company firewall. Everything is plugged into it, including our VoIP system. When we were setting up, part of the setup was to configure the SIP port on the firewall so that our remote extensions in Eastern European country I immigrated from were able to connect to our PBX stateside. This would allow us to create a remote call center and outsource some of the workload. This setup also includes a backup PBX in addition to the primary as ownership doesn't take being down well. Said backup has been plugged into the system since day one and has, fortunately, yet to be used. 2 days ago, the firewall was rebooted, and immediately the remote extensions went down. Couldn't register to our PBX. Voitex and I started working on the problem, but as we couldn't just reboot the firewall midday, paranoia about being down doesn't extend to having a failover for the firewall. Don't ask, this need to be done off hours. Long story short, reboot doesn't help. So we start going over logs and configs, and ask Reddit for help. We figured that maybe we forgot to save a setting on the firewall, and that's why the remote extension stopped working after reboot. We ran a packet trace from the firewall itself. Turns out, per the rules, the packet should be allowed. We checked SIP ALG to make sure it was off. It being on caused a similar issue when we were setting up that didn't allow us to call 911. That was fine too. Then we checked the logs, and found that somehow, despite the backup PBX not being mapped as an object on the firewall, despite there not being any rules pointing to it, and despite it not being connected to anything except the main switch for the VoIP system, incoming packets on port 5060 were being sent to it instead of to the primary PBX. The solution was thus to unplug the backup and reboot the firewall off hours again. Problem solved by unplugging something. Thank you. Next. We left off with us offloading critical tasks onto already overworked servers in the hopes we could free up enough hardware to at least attempt a mirrored setup. Kinda. If you tilted your head, squinted, and didn't look too close. About a week into our task, we finally get a chance to check out the new location. It's a nice day, all of us are overworked, so we decide to walk the few blocks. We get there, and we're ushered into this smallish space on the main floor. Maybe a third of the space we currently had. One big open space, and a smaller area in the back, which, judging by the kitchen, is supposed to be the lunchroom. and a small closet area off to the side. No offices. No desks. Oh, goody. We question the size of this place. It's big enough, barely, to hold the call center, and a couple of the office staff, if they didn't mind using tiny call center cubicle desks. You know, the ones barely wide enough for your shoulders, sides covered in fabric to absorb the extra sound from everybody around you. There's definitely no space for people who are used to posh offices and private spaces to berate their luckless subordinates. Oh, right. This isn't our permanent digs. It's temporary, while our real ones are being built up on the second floor, and we can't just wait until that's done to move the company? Nope. No idea how long that's going to take, and the landlord's getting suspicious. Gotta get out ASAP. This move just went from unreasonable to bonkers. We're actually moving the company twice. First into the temporary location, and then up another floor. Still no downtime. Oh, also, we've got some new clients which we're going to activate soon. We need those going ASAP. Crash priority task, moving, check. No additional support, check. Current infrastructure holding on by a thread, check. Users complaining about problems, check. No additional hardware, check and check. No downtime for users, triple check. New campaigns requiring additional server load, dev time, and testing, out of checks. Did I miss anything? Oh, yeah, don't let the landlord know we're moving. You can only take one server to the new location every week. I weep. Only me, because my partners in suffering have been here forever, and they're used to things being constantly on fire. We turned the little closet into our server room, which also doubled as an extra supply closet. No A/C, no wiring, and especially, no lock. We got yelled at for drilling holes to mount a server rack. So began the process of standing up a new location. We ran network cable. That failed. Ran it again. Ran phone lines for the few desks for the users that doubled as supervisors and handled some campaigns. The rest were VoIP of a different beast than anything you could call sane. But that's a story for later. Got some servers up and running. Got internet. Same domain. Same exchange. One poor server got tasked with being the domain controller, exchange server, and the financial DB server, I think. It was insane. In one of those, I'm out of ideas and energy, and it has to work, so here's what we're going to do. Kind of ways. Our space was temporary, we didn't have A/C, and we were going into summer. It was a sauna. Battling heat exhaustion along with regular exhaustion was one of those things that has left much of this a haze. That, or I've blocked the trauma from my memory, either or. After enough complaining, building management installed a new A/C unit especially for our space. Nothing major, enough to be tolerable, at least, and ensure our servers wouldn't melt before we could even use them. It was mounted in one of those loading dock tunnels, up high so that it could still be driven through. We didn't have any spare servers, but we had enough extra desktop machines and cubicles to set up the places for our users to work. And that led to a fun wrinkle. The powers that be had, wonder of wonders, hired a moving company to transport our extra desks and cubicles under the guise of, we're selling these to someone else. They were on their second or third load of desks when the driver managed to clip the supports holding up the A/C, which promptly obeyed gravity and ripped itself out of its fittings and hoses and did its best to emulate a very large, very fragile, and very expensive rack. And then we didn't have A/C anymore. We blamed movers for being careless. Movers blamed us for not telling them. Property company blamed us both. New lawsuit, etc. etc. Par for the course, really. My cohorts and I just kinda took the knowledge of our brief foray with cold with equanimity. We were vets. Things screwed up, but we'd soldier on, and shut down as many servers as we could. We did eventually get another A/C unit. Halfway through this mess, HR informs all office staff that, as a summer cost-cutting measure, everyone has to take a mandatory half-day off every other Friday. Pitched it as, we want to give you guys more time to enjoy the summer, in the middle of a major project, with tight deadlines, and not enough time as is to get everything done. I mentioned this to my boss the next day, and that it'd just take longer to finish things if we were supposed to not work as much. Boss said we were right. He'll bring it up with the CEO, but for now, we have to obey it. Okie dokie. Guess next Friday I'm leaving at lunch. Fast forward to next Friday. On my way home, I get a call from one of my co-workers. Them, where are you? Me, on my way home, for my half day off. Them, didn't the boss tell you? We're excluded from that. Me, of course we are. Well, it's Friday. I'm almost home. I'll see you guys next Monday. Cost cutting measure averted. All in all, it took us 3 months to get it all done. Everything was ready. It was time for everybody to get up, walk over, sit down, and do their job. Management is still paranoid about the landlord finding out, but don't want to risk leaving anything they don't have to behind. So we got to show up at the old office, at 2 AM, to down the servers, pull them from the rack, wrap them in garbage bags, and throw them into someone's trunk. That's paranoia for you. Some of the hardware didn't make it. To be continued. Thank you. Next. Probably longer than it should be, but I have to set up how my company worked. I used to work a third-party call center in the US. We mainly did off-the-shelf software support for many Fortune 500 companies. We were very diverse depending on our contracts. Depending on the contract, we could do anything from Excel VBA, custom registry edits, mail mergers, Outlook rules, etc. Important to this story, some of our contracts had a strict rule. We were not to let clients know we were outsourced. I'm sure you can see how many problems this can bring up. We were obviously off-site, separate from internal network teams. Our ticket intake system knew this and brought up a custom greeting based on the incoming phone number. Control-Z brought up the greeting script for anyone who may have worked with me. I don't even remember what my client's issue was, but it required remote support. We had remote permissions in the contract, so I connect with customer permission. When we connect, the customer sees a larger pointer, and when we click they saw a red circle animation on whatever we clicked on. I go on fixing her issue. She starts yelling at me how she can't work because I stole her mouse and she can't control it anymore. I explain that she still can take full control of her mouse, and I am in a different building and have gotten permission from her for me to remote in. She isn't having it. She literally can't find her physical mouse. She's adamant that I personally and literally stole her mouse. She asks for a manager. Shit. She's like 3 states away. I'm not allowed to say we're outsourced. My managers can't explain this either. All I can do is call their local network guys, who thankfully understand our position, and explain. They show up and show her that her mouse is still there and explain how remote access works, even though I explained it to her 5 times. I still got a complaint, but the calls were recorded, so I didn't get in any trouble for it.